This has been an extremely brilliant synthesis of a proliferation issue. I would like to focus on the Iranian case and come back on a point I tried to raise in Survival 4 years ago, which is the possibility of a stable balance in the Middle East between Iran, which will keep its enrichment capabilities, will still be in the NPT, will accept additional safeguards with a kind of delays until breakout capabilities as described by the speakers, and Israel, which, as we all know, is a Schrödinger cat nuclear power. It means we don't know whether it has or it has not. We know that it has, but it will never be proved and demonstrated and stated. So I have two questions. First, to the speaker, especially to General Yadlin, whether a long-term stability or mutual deterrence between this kind of Iran, having accepted a compromise of a kind that has been described by the three speakers, with sufficient delay to break out capability, and Israel being what it is such a long-term is it possible to have a stable balance of that kind? My second question is to Mr. Einhorn. It's about the ability of Iranians to accept an NPT regime that will be very different from the other signatories of the NPT, with very reinforced controls that don't exist, for example, in Japan. You know, there are no real-time cameras in Japan to see whether Japan is ready to break out, you know. And so there is this issue of discrimination. Do you think it's possible that the Iranians will accept that? And my third question...
I think we have to keep it to
okay.
2 questions. I'm sorry.
That's all.
Thank you very much. We have very limited time. Dr. Al-Katibe?
Thank you. I am from UAE. So there is a saying that if the elephants dance, the grass is suffering, and also if they are fighting, the grass is suffering. We are the grass, the Gulf is. So in this agreement, it shows since yesterday and today that there is rapprochement between the Iranian and the West. And there is only the sign that is coming from Iran that Rouhani came to the scene. And this is the great change happened in Iran. No matter if there is inside Iran, nothing happened. No changes happened. And the West did not ask why Khamenei and the Revolutionary Guard let Rouhani came as a president. What for? You are only concerned how to reach or to reach the deal between you and the Iranian, no matter how many Syrians is killed every day, and you are only concerned about the chemical weapon. If the Assad or Iran promise that they will stop, you believe them, but you don't believe the reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Francois Eisberg?
Thank you, Mark. The only thing which stands between me and you in terms of the positives of the situation is indeed the Iranian case. It's absolutely central, it's pivotal. If we manage to walk that one down the non-proliferation road, then I think we're actually in a relatively good situation. It's much more important than North Korea for all sorts of reasons. And hence my question, which is mainly, but not exclusively, to Amos Yadlin. Yes, Iran is a problem for the international community, and what I just said, I think, demonstrates that I share that viewpoint. But of course, Israel has also reason, since it's a member of the international community as well as a country in the region, to have its own views and fears of what could happen if Iran went nuclear. And what, in your view, is the main fear? Is it the fear of not having a stable deterrent relationship with Iran, shades of Jean-Louis' question, or is it the fear of a nuclear chain reaction in the Middle East? You know, remember what Chirac said in a famous or infamous interview 5 years ago when he essentially said, if Iran goes nuclear, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt will also go nuclear because these countries will not be able to accept regional hegemony by Iran. So what is your view on this, Amos? What is the main concern that Israel would have? Just a very quick comment on constant monitoring, permanent monitoring of the sort which Bob Einhorn referred to. I don't know whether it's discriminatory or not, but I do recall, and I don't know whether it's still the case today, that in the framework of the non-Lugar cooperative threat reduction program, you actually had a number of instances of permanent real-time monitoring between the US and Russia. So if it could happen between two such important states, I'm not sure that Iran would have cause to feel discriminated against.
Thank you. Thank you. Yoichi Kato, please.
Yes, I'm with Japanese newspaper, and I took great interest in the statement by General Yadin about the relationship between diplomacy and military intervention. He said that threat of military intervention is the key to success of the diplomatic option. If I apply this guideline to North Korea, I think it comes up with a very interesting question to Mr. Einhorn. You said that the outlook of the North Korean denuclearization issue is bleak, but is this the reason why it's so bleak that we do not have enough threat of military intervention to North Korea? And I know the reason. It's basically because South Korea and China are not happy with any threat of military intervention by the United States. But do you think this is one of the reasons why the situation in North Korea is bleak? Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Youssef Mashal?
Thank you. I think nuclear issues are really been there for some time, and they are an issue between the international countries that have agreed not to agree on any of this. My question is why we don't see international, or we see the international community sitting together and agree on how they should deal with this country. Why do we always have somebody who is from this side and another country from the other side? Always there are oppositions in these things where the whole idea of nuclear, any nuclear issues are for the whole world together. So I have never seen, and this is giving the window for these countries to actually go on. As we said, 10 years ago, Rouhani was negotiating, now he's the president, but they are almost reaching to go into the bomb. North Korea has done the same thing. Before that, Pakistan has done the same thing. When are we going to see these countries sitting first together before they actually go into the problematic country?
Thank you. Barry Desker?
My question is the nuclear genie out of the bottle? Wouldn't rogue states today seek acquisition of nuclear weapons as a source of security in an uncertain world?
Nice, crisp question. Wolfgang Dunsbeck-Gruber.
Thank you. Two things. First of all, it's interesting that we have this discussion today when there was the revelation of a near detonation of a 4 megaton bomb over North Carolina. You see this all over the thing. In the discussion about Israel and Syria, one element was not mentioned at all, whether before nor now. That is that Syria doesn't only have one of the world's largest chemical weapon deposit, but also one of the world's largest bacteriological weapon deposit. More than 1,000 tons of bacteriological weapons from anthrax to the plague. Now, the argument of any Syrian diplomat will be that we the Syrians, had these weapons of mass destruction as our deterrence against the Israeli nuclear weapons. And I wonder whether there is any strategic vision now how the dismantling of chemical and bacteriological weapons, hopefully both, of Syria does change and alter the overall situation in the Middle East.
Thank you. Tariq Rauf.
Thank you very much. I had a general question to the panel. I was head of nuclear verification and nuclear security at the IAEA for a decade until last year, and with regard to Iran's potential currently of a breakout and developing a nuclear weapon, the indications that the IAEA has is that, and which is I think supported by the IISS National Intelligence Estimate, that those activities stopped around 2003 or so. So at the moment, it is correct that Iran does have a stockpile of low-enriched uranium at 20%, but whether or not it can make a quick dash to making a nuclear weapon in a few months or so, I think is still a matter of question. And I was wondering what the panel would say to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tariq. With apologies to the many others who have wanted the floor, I'm going to just ask for two more, then we'll go to the panel, starting with Bob. So the last two questions are Dr. Nirvana Mahmood and then Jonathan Paris.
Thank you. My question is to Amos Yildiz. I am coming from a country next to Israel, from Egypt. And I just wonder, you wrote a recent paper that the chemical weapon deal in Syria is a win-win deal. So in Egypt, we don't see it that way. And we see if it happens, it will pressurize Egypt and Israel to reach a similar deal about Egypt chemical weapon and Israel nuclear weapon. Do you see it that way? Thank you.
Thank you. And Jonathan, last short question.
Sure, real short. Bob Einhorn made an interesting point that Assad is motivated by the military threat, but Iran is motivated to come to negotiations by sanctions. Bob, are you suggesting that while the U.S. should put the military threat off the table for now, that you would object to or support increased sanctions by Congress? And secondly, to anybody, if Assad were to fall miraculously, do you think that Iran would accelerate or decelerate its nuclear program?
Thank you. We're eating into the time of the next panel, so I won't ask the speakers to address every single question that was tabled. Take the ones that seem most relevant and maybe easy to answer. Take maybe 2 minutes a maximum. And Bob, if you could start.
Thanks, Mark. I may have misunderstood some of the questions, but I'll go very, very quickly through them. Can there be reliable deterrence with a country that doesn't have nuclear weapons but is near the nuclear threshold? I think it's problematic. I think actually Iran hasn't taken a decision to build a nuclear weapon. It wants to get right up to that threshold so it has an option for the future. But I think having that option is itself destabilizing to Iran's neighbors. So that's why the objective is to negotiate an arrangement that keeps them as far away from breakout capability as possible. It would, for example, certain verification measures the U.S. and others will propose, will they go beyond the additional protocol and perhaps be seen as discriminatory? Yes, I think so. I think, and it's justifiable in terms of Iran's track record of noncompliance with its obligations. It may be temporary. It may be some period of time, in which case some supplementary verification would go away. But for the time being, I think Iran can expect to be required to go beyond what Japan and other countries have had to accept. Question is North Korea's situation bleak because there's no credible military threat? I don't think there's been a credible military threat against North Korea for some time, and not because it's built up its nuclear retaliatory capability. I think it has a credible threat to cause massive damage in Seoul with a large number of conventional artillery pieces. And so I think that's been an inhibition. But that's not why it's so bleak. One of the reasons it's so bleak is that Iran's neighbor, North Korea's neighbor, China, has been prepared to keep the North Korean regime afloat no matter what. And it hasn't been prepared to use the sizable leverage it has to put decisive pressure on Pyongyang. And I think that's one of the reasons why the situation doesn't look good. Won't rogue states, won't the rogue states see acquisition of nuclear weapons as an answer, as enhancing their security? Well, there are a number of cases where the acquisition of these capabilities, or seeking the acquisition, has not contributed to their security. The invasion of Iraq. Now, we all know about the faulty intelligence, but Iraq paid a heavy price for pursuing WMD capabilities. Syria in 2007 was attacked by Israel because of the plutonium production reactor it got from North Korea. That was risky for its national security. Iran has not been attacked, but it's suffering tremendously from economic sanctions that are the result of its desire to achieve a nuclear weapons capability. So I don't think the conclusion should be drawn that it's in the national interest of these countries to pursue weapons of mass destruction. On Syrian biological weapons, I'm not sure whether they have biological weapons or their standby capability to produce biological weapons. I simply don't know the answer to that. But I think the current discussions about Syrian CW should be an opportunity to look at concerns about Syrian programs in other areas, BW, but also the nuclear. There are many outstanding issues that the IAEA has about Syrian's nuclear program. It's sought to visit a number of facilities related to the facility that was bombed, but it's been denied. Hopefully, this will be an opportunity to deal with that. On Tariq's question about the dash to a bomb, there's a growing capability of Iran to shorten that breakout period. With the if they were to begin enriching with the more advanced centrifuges, the IR2Ms, if they were to start enriching at all of their cascades at the Fordo facility, all of those things would greatly shorten the breakout period. Some suggest that in a matter of weeks, if those things were done, Iran could break out and have enough highly enriched uranium for a bomb. I don't think Iran has any intention of doing that. I think their strategy is to be very careful, very cautious, and to take their time. They're in no rush. Okay.
Camille.
I'll be very, very brief. I'll pick up a very few quick points. Just one comment on François' point that the DPRK is less important. I think, first of all, it depends where you stand, of course. And secondly, I think part of the reason we tend to say that is that we don't have a solution to the DPRK, when on Iran we have more options to curb the problem. On the issue of nuclear issues being a global issue, I think we are a bit missing and losing a sense of purpose in the field of non-proliferation. If I look at NPT conferences, which tend to become an extraordinarily boring event, I must say that the last time there was a sense of unity and shared purpose was 95. Even though there were final documents adopted in 2000 and 2010, those were adopted in pain, with a lot of debates about both non-proliferation, disarmament, and peaceful uses. So they were not sending the rest of the world, and especially to the handful of countries that are in violation of the norm, the right message. On the impact of dismantling the Syrian CW on the region, I would support the view that it should be an opportunity to tackle other Syrian issues, and for that, an inspection regime that could be modeled on the 687 resolution would be very useful and helpful, though difficult to achieve. If, in the best of all worlds, of course, the move on Syria could put back on track the work on the Middle East WMD free zone discussion, because it is a game changer for the region, but we are not there yet. Finally, on Tariq's point on breakout capabilities, I think we should separate two issues. One is how is the program moving in terms of military ambitions. The second thing is the capabilities. And what we've seen in the last 10 years is more centrifuge, more stockpiles of low-enriched uranium, of 20% enriched uranium, therefore making the threshold much closer than it was 10 years ago, even if we can have a debate on the intentions of the program. Lastly, if Assad were to fall, would it change something for the Iranian program? I think it's a very open outcome in many ways, because one outcome, and you think of Libya after Iraq, is that the Iranians would suddenly think that the best solution for them is to have a negotiated settlement and to cap their nuclear ambitions. Of course, the alternative route of saying that the only way would be to acquire a genuine nuclear capability is possible as well. I would tend to think that the first route is something that is worthwhile trying to take advantage of.
Thank you, Camille. And Amos, you have the last word.
Yeah, for Francois, it is not either or, it's both. For Israel, it's both. It's the concern of the threat from Iran, the understanding that mad, mutual assured destruction is not a good concept for the Middle East, for a small country as Israel, for the very short ranges, for having no means of communication, and for the fact that there is huge asymmetrical between Israel and Iran. And this is not me. This is the president of Iran, Rafsanjani, saying that Israel is a one-bomb country and the proud Iranian nation could absorb, maybe Islamic nation, could absorb 3 to 4 bombs. So we are not going to try it. And second is the Middle East nightmare of proliferation, because the Saudis will not wait 1 month. They already paid for the bomb. They will go to Pakistan and bring what they need to bring. And then every regional superpower like Egypt, Turkey, Iraq will be nuclear. And once again, anybody who have learned game theory knows that between 2 players, if you are a Nobel Prize scientist, you can create a system. Between 5, 6 players, it's impossible. And if we speak about September 11, it was not Iranians in the planes. So we have to be very careful. I think the Russians today and yesterday explained what Al-Qaeda is, and we have to be very, very careful about that. So two concerns. The Americans, NIE from 2007 was published on the internet. Unfortunately, since there, I think they have changed their mind. However, they haven't published it anymore. To the best of my knowledge, the US knows that strategically Iran is going to the bomb, as I described, in a very sophisticated strategy with minimum risks. So strategically they have decided the last tactical mile is still not done, but it will be done in the timing that the Iranians will choose. To my friend from Egypt, Egypt is a very responsible country. Last time they used chemical weapon, I think, was 1964 in Yemen. Since then, Egypt is a different Egypt, and the world is really wake up to do something when weapon of mass destruction is used, like it happened in Syria 12 times in the last year. So don't worry, I think Egypt will not be pushed to dismantle its chemical weapon.
Thank you very much, Amos. Thank you, all speakers. Thank you for participation. Again, apologies to those who didn't have time to call on. We will now move directly to the third plenary. So don't get up. Those who have authority to get up are those on the panel and those who have to come replace us. So just give us a minute to do the switch over. Thank you.